So Piranesi. That's how we're going to be saying it. Piranesi, 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 Piranesi. By Susanna Clark. Very short book, but very different from what I have been reading recently. So I am up to. I finished part two, so I'm on. I finished part two, page, so 83 pages. So we have two characters, one who is named Piranesi by the other, though he never refers to himself as Piranesi. That's sort of our main character, our viewpoint character, and the other character is only referred to as the other, capital O. Although, note on capitalization, a lot of nouns in this are capitalized, and I can't see a reason why, other than it's sort of like older, not old English, but I don't know, 18th century, maybe 19th century English. They tend to capitalize a lot of nouns, much like we now only capitalize proper nouns. So, anyways, the other is this name of this character. The world they inhabit is it's described as the house by Piranesi. It is not a house, a manor. Well, it's described as a labyrinth by the other, the lowercase l. It contains numerous halls and vestibules that seem to be connected one after the other, and Piranesi has sort of a way to describe it. The 153rd Northwestern Hall, for example, is how he names the halls. But yeah, the fact that I think he said he's been to over 900, like the 900th hall. So it seems to stretch into, if not infinity, then much larger than can be explored by one person. It's also broken up into vertical layers. You have the upper halls where sort of weather occurs and stuff, the lower halls that are flooded with either freshwater lakes or a sea, and which has tides. A lot of sea life and fish and seaweed and stuff is there that Piranesi uses to sustain himself and to make leather and to have fibers to create ropes and stuff. He gets all that from the lower levels in the sort of sea. And then there's I forget if they call it just the mid-level, the one in between the upper and lower. And this is sort of where he lives, Piranesi lives or travels. There's also a lot of bird life there. It seems to be the only animal life is birds and fish. I think so far. Anyways, so yeah, the whole world is inside this house. There doesn't seem to be an outside to the house, although they do refer to stars, moons, sky, so they can see that outside the windows, and in places the house is derelict and in fact has recently, at least in Piranesi's memory, has collapsed. So it's not an eternal, unchanging house. It is seemingly deteriorating at some speed, some what's the word? Not scale. Rate. At some rate, it is deteriorating. But when like stuff collapses and the walls cave in or the roof collapses, there doesn't seem to be the option to go outside of the house. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if there are windows, or the windows look out into sort of courtyards that are enclosed. Yes, I think this is right. There are sort of courtyards outside, but they are enclosed by the walls of the house. So the house, it's big. There's no outside yet that we know of. Besides Piranesi and the other, there are 14 not corpses, skeletons, 14 remains of humans. So Piranesi sort of knows that there must have been humans sometime in the past here because their remains are there. There is talk, sort of not later on, but deeper into the book, about the 16th person, who the other's very sketchy about. He's asking Piranesi if have you seen anyone else besides us? Piranesi's like, no. But then sort of the other reveals that he has met this 16th person, and that the 16th person is evil and is against their plans. And so avoid them at all costs, whatever this 16th person is. But the other, his sort of goal, and he has Piranesi helping him. Their goal is to unlock the sort of ancient knowledge or secrets or supernatural powers, or something that he says can make him invisible, fly, read minds, sort of all the stuff that if you told a child, what's your favorite superpower, like one of those things. And at one point in this, Piranesi's like, why are we doing this? I don't need this power. Like, what is the point? I'm just going to give up on it and live my life happily in this house. But this is when the other convinces him, no, we need to do this. It's lost knowledge. We need to bring it back for humanity. And he reveals to Piranesi that Piranesi loses his memories somehow. So like they've had this conversation before, sort of thing. Like Piranesi's losing his memories, and he doesn't really believe the other. He's like, no, I remember everything that I remember. So how can I know that I've not remembered things? Anyways, which sort of brings me to how this is written. It's written in a journal format by Piranesi. He keeps journals about his travels and travels throughout the house. Like one of his tasks is sort of mapping the house, and also mapping all the statues in the house, because it seems like that's a huge part of this house, is the statuary and how varying it is, and how each hall has sort of a different vibe of statuary, and I'm sure they all represent something that I haven't figured out yet. But there's humans, animals, different scenes, emotions, poses, different objects, all kinds of different statues throughout this whole labyrinth/house. So Piranesi is cataloging that. He's also cataloging the tides. He knows when the tides will come in and out, because at one point he was swept away, and I think the other was swept away by the tides and thought they were going to die, but they didn't. And so he's come to know the tides, and he seems to have an almost a perfect memory, perfect recall. He can recall everything, like when they're doing a ritual, the other's doing a ritual to try and get this secret knowledge. He says, oh, I wish we had a room that was more like this. And Piranesi says, well, I know that room. There's a room just like that. It's way over here, and it'll take us this long to get there, and stuff like that. But he also seems to be losing his memory for some reason. So relations to our world, the dating system he uses, Piranesi uses, is sort of his own made-up dating system. But he says at one point that when he started dating, the first year he used was 2011, and then 2012 and 2013 or something. And eventually he changed to this other year format that he made up. So, and it feels like I think he's been here, or he's recorded 8 or so years, which starting at 2013 or 2011 or whatever it was, corresponds to the year that this was published. So even though they're in this crazy sort of world, there's that weird connection with our world. There's also the strange fact that sort of Piranesi, he eats fish and he uses seaweed and stuff and only uses what the house provides. He says, just sort of what's in sort of the natural world around him. Yet he has like sleeping bag and clothes and notebooks and pens, and but it seems he gets all this stuff from the other, who seems to always be wearing a suit and always has like food and can somehow conjure anything he needs because he doesn't survive off the house. And like for example, Piranesi says, "Hey, I can go to that room and check it out for you, but there's lots of like rock fragments in one of the hallways to get there, and like I don't have shoes, so it will really cut me up." And he's like, "Why didn't you tell me you don't have shoes? I'll get you shoes." And then he gets some shoes, like brand new shoes in a shoebox. So how the other has access to stuff? Does he have like a portal to our world where he can reach through and get stuff and give it to Piranesi? I don't know, but there's definitely a dichotomy between Piranesi and the other, where Piranesi lives in the house. He lives off the house. Whatever the house provides, he uses to live. He is content with that. Though he does have sort of a desire not for this sort of esoteric magical knowledge that the other wants, but for a more scientific, rational understanding of the world or the house, such as his tides and his cataloging of the statuary. And like I said, the other, in contrast, is not really interested in any of that at all. He's trying to do some ritual to obtain power that humanity lost when humanity turned to rationality, I think he says, or something to that effect. So the two are quite different. But speaking of how the other gets sort of stuff that seems to be from our world, at the end of this, Piranesi sort of sees sort of a weird light through a certain way statuary are located in this certain room, and he sort of gets a smell. It sort of feels the wind. He smells like petrol and sort of weird sort of street smells, I would say. I say street smells because he also hears a conversation between two people. It seems like just a generic conversation you hear on the street. And then I can't remember if he sees sort of a street-like scene, but he sees like some trash, some refuse sort of tumbleweeding its way through this room, and he cleans it up. So it feels like this room is somehow a portal to our world, or a world similar to ours, is what I'm gathering from this. He also finds a note there written from a Lawrence to someone else. And my understanding of that note is, or it felt like to me, that the other is the Lawrence, and he's writing to Piranesi. Whether this is the other and our Piranesi, or a different iteration of them, or them sometime in the past, or it's totally unrelated. But reading this, that's sort of the vibe I got. So he found this letter. Maybe this letter came through the portal or whatever from this other world. The only other, in a few chapters previously, or a few journal entries previously, he found scraps of paper that had been torn up that had sort of strange writing on them that he was not able to piece together because some of the fragments had been used by birds in their nests. So he's going to come back in the fall when the birds have left and gather what remaining scraps of paper and sort of piece them together to find out what they are from. My first thought with those was that they are Piranesi's writing, that they are fragments of his journal or some other writing that he has forgotten, or I guess he had to have forgotten them because he doesn't recognize them. So it's very strange. He also can communicate. He also communicates through the birds, where he describes a scenario that happens twice where the birds are sort of in sort of a frenzy, and he speaks to them, and then they land on certain statuary, and then move to a different statuary, and as the birds are moving and landing at different places, Piranesi can interpret what they're trying to tell him based on that, and it seems to be sort of oracular or some form of divination using birds to hint at some future event. I don't know. I think that's all I can say so far. I mean, I'm like a good third of the way through the book already, but there's, I don't know, there's a lot of mystery, a lot of I guess I've only done sort of a surface level examination. There seems to be some sort of religious tones. At first I thought the other is sort of a, a godlike being because he provides the shoes, the notebooks, the whatever Piranesi needs. However, now it seems like more it's the house that provides, and Piranesi is content with that, and is the house a form of not paradise because it has its trials and tribulations, but it provides, and Piranesi's fine with that, and but the other is sort of wanting more, and he obviously knows more about Piranesi and the house than he reveals. I'm getting off track now, but I can't quite pin it down, but there is some sort of a religious Christianity metaphor here with the house, the other, and Piranesi. Is Piranesi sort of in a state of innocence, and the other is trying to tempt him with this power? It doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems more that Piranesi is just being used by the other. The other just uses him for his help, but also is sort of testing him in a way, or not testing him for his own purposes. Like the other sees Piranesi as a bit of a, not mystery, but maybe a riddle to be solved. I don't know. I'm really speculating now, but yes, we'll just end it there, and I don't know how far I'll probably stop again before I end it and see what I think. But this is, I haven't read a book this short in a while, but that was chapters 1, or I guess part 1 and 2, the first 83 pages in this edition of Susanna Clarke's Piranesi.